Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. How have you guys been? I know it's been a long time since we shot a video. How has your year been? This is close to the end of January 2024. How has your reading goals been? Hope you've been smashing your reading goals. Have you started any book? Have you finished any book yet? So you can let me know in the comment section. So I see some YouTubers do this. They usually have a cup of coffee or some kind of tea, and I each time I see it, I think, oh, that looks very cool. So I'm going to be trying it in today's video. You guys should let me know how it turns out. Oh, it's a cup of fresh water. I know a I know a Nigerian doctor who is going to be very proud of me right now. So this video is going to be a very quick one. In today's video I just intend to share the books I read in 2023, and also to just give a snippet into my reading plans and reading goals for the year 2024. As you can see, we have a new mic. Right, we have a new mic. Oh, there's a clip. Ooh, the clip is not here. That means I'll have to hold this throughout this video, provided it's functional, or I'll just have to quickly move at one point to get a clip when it stops being functional. So I'm just going to be sharing the books I read in 2023, and just like I said earlier, just to also give a snippet into my reading plans and reading goals for the year. So it's going to be a very quick one. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. So the first book I read, not like the first book I read, I think maybe it's the first book, I can't remember. But the first book I'll be reviewing is this: What Britain Did to Nigeria. I would. There's so much to say about this book. There's just a whole lot to say about this book, and I think I might make do a separate video where I review this book in depth. But I think it's a book every Nigerian must read. Every African as well must read, because it's not just the story of Nigeria; it's also the story of Africa, in some way. And it's also a book anyone who is interested in Nigeria, whether you're African or not, it's a book I would really recommend that you read if you want to get an idea of what colonialism means, not just what colonialism means, but the impact and the nuances of colonialism, not the regular stories you see on Twitter or you just come across online. This is quite a very detailed book, and for me, it was quite emotional and for me reading this book, because it's the story of my forefathers, the story of the forefathers of every African out there, and it was very hard to extricate my feelings and emotions and sentiment from this book. But I would really commend the author. He tried very hard. He did a very good job at being very objective in telling the story, right? So he wasn't trying to paint the picture of the African society as some kind of utopia before the colonial masters came. And he wasn't also trying to say, oh, the colonial masters came here to help us. They came here to, abolish slavery. They came here to abolish some kind of very sad and very heinous activities like human sacrifices and all that. So he wasn't trying to make a case for either parties. He was being very objective to say this is why Britain came to Nigeria, purely for very adventurous and economic motives, which eventually morphed into colonialism and very other activities. This is why they came. This is what they did, and these were the effects of their presence here. There are quite a few surprises, because as a Nigerian boy growing up in primary school and in secondary school, the most popular name when it comes to um colonial Nigeria is Sir Frederick Lord Lugard, right? The man who would I say amalgamated the southern and northern protectorate of Nigeria. But it was very interesting to know that he wasn't the most important man, right? He wasn't the most. important man when it comes to colonizing Nigeria, right? There's one very unpopular but very key and important figure. Very less known. In fact, he didn't want to be known, and that's Talman Goldie. I think I'll put the name because I don't think I'm doing a very good job at pronouncing the name. So there are quite a few surprises in this book, and my key takeaway from this book is that the current challenges or the current landscape of Nigeria today in terms of politics and economy, the seeds we are sown long time ago, before before the before the Nigeria gained independence, before Nigeria was amalgamated in 1914. The seeds were sown long ago, and our current challenges do not exist on its own, right? It stems from the seeds that Britain sowed in Nigeria, and it's interesting to know that the joining of Nigeria, the amalgamation of the southern and northern protectorate, was purely for economic purposes, not necessarily because these people were the same, or because there was any kind of ideal they wanted to attain by merging these two nations. So, like I said, it's going to be a lot if I want to talk about this in this video, and it's going to make this video quite long. So maybe I'll shoot another video where I just review this book in depth. So that is it. I think I'm going to give this book 5 star, and I think it's a book every Nigerian should read. So you could go grab a copy and check it out. Yeah. So let's take water. Right. Oh, this is very nice. This is very nice, by the way. I think I see it makes sense now why they always have the cup of coffee or the cup of tea. Right. Oh, so let's move. Next, becoming. Right? I also read this book last year, and I think to know Michelle is to love Michelle, right? And I think there's no other better way to put it. To know Michelle is to love Michelle. I think there are quite a few number of persons that I know who are very comfortable in being vulnerable, and Michelle is one of them, right? And being vulnerable, not in the sense of, oh, these are my scars, this is all of me, please pity me, please help me. No, Michelle is, this is me, these are my scars, and I don't intend to mask any of me to make you feel comfortable. And in some kind of very weird and very weird way, that kind of just empowers you to open up your own scars, right? Open up your own humanness. I think another person who, under personality who I know to be this vulnerable is Abraham Lincoln. People who can say, "Oh, I don't know." People who open up their fears and their insecurities, not in a pitiful way, but in a, hey, this is me, and I know you also have these fears as well. So, irrespective of our position and our prestige, we are still human at the end of the day. So it was very interesting to read about Michelle. I think I've watched a couple of her YouTube videos, and it was always very inspiring each time I heard her speak. So it was very interesting to dive into this memoir. Is this a memoir or an autobiography? Well, either of them. It was very interesting to dive into this and see what her life was like growing up as a child, with parents and a brother, right? And what her teenage years was like, what it was like meeting Barack Obama, and what it was like, spending that long, the few years she did at the White House. So it was very interesting to learn some very interesting things about her life, and what she had to overcome, the fears and the insecurities she had to overcome um a child, a black woman, and the differences between her and Barack Obama. Right. It was very interesting to learn. I think my key takeaway from this book is would be that um you can't have it all figured out, right? You can't have it all figured out, right? But the least you can do, which is in your control, is to always show up and do your best. Always show up and do your best. She told the story of when she was in school, right? I think it would be primary school or some kind of kindergarten then, and she made a mess of some spelling bee, right? And not she made a mess, not like she made a mess, but she stumbled at spelling white or I think so. But she was so determined that she came the next day and spelled it in front of the teacher. And I think that drive and optimism that she has about life, I think I dare say it's what it's what has been the secret to her success. So it's very interesting to read this, and I really recommend it. I think I would also give it a 5 star because it's Mitchell, and because the book is also like very good. And thirdly, we have this. This is a classic. I think everybody knows this book. And to be honest, I haven't finished reading this book. It's quite small, right? And it's very surprising, but I haven't finished reading it. And the reason is because the author recommends that you read each chapter at least twice. And I'm very obedient. I'm a very loyal person. I like to, when an author writes a book and says the best way for you to get um, um, the most out of this book or to squeeze the juices out of the book is to read each chapter twice, I obey. I listen. So I think that's the reason I haven't finished reading this book, but it's a very helpful book. I think initially when I used to see the title, I used to think it was some kind of manipulative book, but Dale Carnegie is not like that, and it's no way it's not manipulative in any way. It's just um timeless principles, right, on how to you know you know relate to people. It's just a book on relationship, every kind of relationship, career, career wise, romantic relationships, mentor student relationship. It's just a very insightful book. I think I'm still going to, of course, I would finish it. Of course, I would finish it. And I think it's a book you should also read. Whether you're good at dealing with people or you're not very good at dealing with people, you would find something here helpful for you. For you. And fourthly, because of time, the defining decade. Whew. If you're in your twenties and if you're in your twenties and you've not read this, please do. Meg J is a clinical psychologist who deals with people in their twenties, and she out of the many years she has spent working with people in this age bracket, she this is just like a distilled version, distilled wisdom or insight she has gained. And I think the book is divided into three, if I remember correctly. It's divided into like work, love, and the brain and the body, right? And I think the most key thing I learned from this book is a concept called identity capital, right? It's not. I don't think that's the most important thing, but that's what I could remember now. It's a concept called identity capital, and the idea is that universities and college kind of create an artificial reality for us. The lecturers are paid to pay attention to you. Your fellow students are paying their fees to pay attention to your ideas. When you step out of college or university, you're never going to have that kind of experience again. It's always a shocker because everybody is about their business and nobody's really paying attention to you. So that can create some form of anxiety. Immediately you step out of college and you're wondering, oh, I thought the world paid more attention to me. I thought the world was designed for my success and all that. And it's always a very shocking surprise when you step out of college. And that anxiety can overwhelm you. It can overwhelm some people, and they end up, whiling away their time when they're waiting for their best thing, their dream job, their dream partner, rather than getting their hands dirty, even if it's not working on something that they would have loved to work on, right? And I think the whole idea of identity capital is okay. This is not what I want to work on, but I could work on this while I wait for what I want, while I hope and plan and prepare for what I want. The job I'm working on now will give me some identity capital that will help me, know more about myself, right? Know more about myself and, kind of like move on to the next big thing. And I think he also mentioned something about weak ties, which I think makes very sense. That most of the opportunities, most of the leveling up we're going to be doing in life, the connections wouldn't come from our immediate circles, right? Most closest friends or our family. Most of those leveling ups will come from very weak ties, like LinkedIn connections. People will see in church once in a while. People will meet at the book club once in a while. Most of those leveling up will come from those very weak ties. So I think this is a book every if you're in your 20s, I think this is a book you should read. I'm not saying, of course, the author says that the primary audience for this book is are people in their 20s, but it's also a book parents should read, people who are not yet in their 20s. It's also a book that I would recommend. I'll give this book a 5 star. I plan to read this book every year as long as I'm in my 20s. As long as in my 20s, I plan to read this book every year. It was very helpful for me to, make a decision to work, to move cities and work at my current job. So I'll give this book also a 5 star. We've just been having 5 star books so far. So because of time, let's move quickly. Next, leaving the tarmac. Whew, I think it's time for us to take a sip. This is very nice, by the way. You should try it. Fresh water. Right. Leaving the tarmac. Ooh, this is the co-founder of one of the biggest banks in Africa. In fact, one of the most respected African financial institutions, and his name is Ig Imokwede. Right, and I like the title of this book. It's about an event that happened when he was in secondary school. He was flying from school back home, and as a naive young boy, the Nigerian flight system, right, the Nigerian airport service in those days were managed by the government. There weren't any private airplane services, and when a government is running an institution in Nigeria, it's always a mess. It's always a big mess. And so he was about to board. He had already bought his ticket. It was time to board the airplane, and there was just this mad rush from more experienced travelers, and he was just bullied out of the way. And before he could get to the door of the plane, the door was shut, right? And he watched the airplane leave. And while he was standing there, he shed tears. I think he made up his mind there that he was never going to be left on the tarmac again. So I think this was what was in his mind. This was what shaped his the final push. Because at the time when he bought a bank in Nigeria, he was already one of the executive directors in one of the biggest banks in Nigeria. That was in 2001, 2002, 19 2001, 2002, if I remember correctly. He was already the youngest executive director in Nigeria, in one of the biggest banks in Nigeria. And it didn't make sense to his mom when he told his mom that he wanted to buy a bank in Nigeria. I mean, you've just been made an executive director, the youngest in the country. Well, he mentioned something about entrepreneurs, not as long as you're working for someone else, you would never really feel fulfilled. It doesn't matter how much you're earning, doesn't matter the amount of stock options you have and all that. As long as you're working for someone as an entrepreneur, you would never really feel fulfilled. And I think I can relate with that. I think I can relate with that. So this is a book about not his autobiography, but it's a book of the processes and the frameworks and the events that led to buying the bank that he currently runs. And just a quick one. Um, I really admire the co-founders of this institution. I think they are the most driven people I've come across so far. Most driven Nigerian founders I've come across so far. If you had bought a stock in this company in 2002 or 2001, today you would have accrued 4,300% interest. That's how big they have grown. And it was very audacious for him to pull all his savings and even talk to some of his family members to bring their landed properties and their savings for them to invest in this financial institution that wasn't doing so well, and today arguably one of the biggest and fastest growing financial institutions in Africa. I think my key takeaway from this book is somewhere along the start, and that is the fact that when he bought his bank as an ED in one of the biggest banks then in Nigeria, he his bosses at work didn't know, and I am still wondering how he was able to pull off that move because um we live in a society or that loves to share information. Oh, I go to the gym and I'm posting pictures online already. I'm working on something. I take videos of myself and I say I'm working on this already. We live in a society that loves to share information. We live in a society that we announce our next moves before we even do it. And for the fact that he pulled off buying a bank while he was at his current job, and his bosses found out through rumors and through the news and called him to his office, called them, both of them, to the office to resign. I think there's something to learn there, right? There's something about, not announcing your next move. There's something about not being too loud about what you're doing next and just doing it. I think telling people, oh, I'm going to do this kind of, creates a false perception that you've already done that, and it saps the energy and whatever resources you, whatever motivation you might need to actually do it, right? So I think there's really something to learn there, and I would have given this book a 5 star, but the author wrote this book, the manuscript in 2015, but he published it in 2020 or 2021. And they are quite I think this book would have been better presented with a better editor, because he mentioned that 5 years later he did not, change anything in this book. I think this book would have benefited from, having a better editor, because there are just quite a few sentences that I think would have been written better and communicated better. So the story is very inspiring. The story of one of the biggest financial institutions in Africa currently, but the presentation could be better. So I'd give this book a 3.5 or a three, just because of that. So next, let's move on to our Let me take another sip of fresh water. I don't know how long this video is yet, but please bear with me. I'm going to try and be very fast. So let's move on to some of the spiritual books I read, and I'm a Christian, by the way. So this is Finishing Strong by Steve. I don't know how to pronounce that, please. Farah, is that correct? Right. So this is a very also a very important book that I read last year, and for someone I think this book is it gives a very interesting, very makes a very bold statement, which I think which is very consoling for me, because it says it doesn't matter how well you start. What matters is how you finish, and it goes on to give examples of people who didn't start well but ended up finishing well. I think it also aligns with the 80/20 principle. It says that not everyone who starts finishes. A very sad statistics, and it goes on to give you principles on how to that will help you to finish strong, not just as a man, but as a father, as a husband, and in whatever capacity you find yourself to function as a man. I think my key takeaway from this book as a Christian is that people who finish stronger are those who not those who go in their strength and try to, be do all do everything in their power, right? But those who acknowledge that that Jesus is their Lord indeed, in words, in thought, and in deeds, and they lay down their life. People who see their insufficiency. It sounds very counterintuitive, but it makes a lot of sense. That when you submit your life to the Lord, you submit your family to the Lord, a not in an irresponsible way, but in your heart you really lay down your life to the Lord. You see your insufficiency and you continually rely and lean on the strength and grace He supplies. You're more likely to finish strong than when you go in your own strength. So I think this is a book every man should read. And if you're looking for a book to get for your husband or your boyfriend, if you're in a serious relationship, I think this is a book you should, consider getting for them. So I'll give this book, of course, a 5 star. And next, dating intelligently. Whew, I think this is the most relatable relationship book I've ever read. I don't think I've read much. I don't even think I've read any, so I don't have anything to compare it with. I don't think I've read any except fictions and all that. But this is a very relatable relationship book, and it's a common size guide to courtship. I never saw that. Oh, and it's very has a lot of common sense wisdom in it. It's written by someone I stumbled on YouTube, and with very practical wisdom. She's a very wise person. Practical wisdom, common sense wisdom, like it says here. I don't know how long this video is yet, so I shouldn't be spending so much time, on one book. But this is a book I would really recommend for everyone. I think the key theme of this book is that a lot of persons date blindly and expect to have a very fruitful relationship. That's just playing games with your future. That's just playing games with your life. I think it says dating is a time to I can't remember that word. When I remember that phrase, I'm going to put it off here. Dating is a time to something, and marriage is a time to love blindly. Right? I think but I can't remember what dating is like. But so it's a very practical book, and I maybe I'll shoot down the video where I review this book. And it has this. I think I like it because he has this. He also has this bookmark in it, so you don't have to dog hear your pages when you're reading. So I also give this book a 5 star because why not? And lastly, for the spiritual books is this. Whew. I also read this last year, and I think I read quite a number of Christian books last year. And Daughter of Destiny, Catherine Kuhlman. Um, it was it's very interesting to dive into her life and see this is a woman I heard quite a few. I didn't hear so much about growing up, but each time I heard about her, it was always a very graphic is not a word. It was always a very interesting event. It was always a very interesting story about her. So it was very beautiful to dive into her life and see what it was like, the good, the bad, the ugly. I think my key takeaway from this book is that regardless of what you've done, right? People are not perfect, and regardless of what you've done, God can still use you, right? She started off well. There was not a not so bright part of her story, and but God still used her mightily when she submitted to the Lord. And I mean, the halls she packed, the miracles were just a testament to the power and the presence of God in her life, right? So I don't think there are a lot of preachers I know about who reviewed the Holy Spirit like she did. So it was very interesting to read this book, and I would recommend it if you're interested in knowing more about her. I think it's a well written biography. So I'll give this book a 5 star because it's Catherine Kuhlman. So I think the next books I have here are just I don't have the hard copies of those books. They are Slight Edge. So I think I'm going to put a Slight Edge here or here. And the Slight Edge for me is the best. Whew, that's a very bold thing to say, but I think it's the best book I read last year. I'm already giving out I'm already giving out spoilers on my favorite books for the year, but I think it's the best book I read last year. It's a very practical book. He explained, he reviewed the concept of compounding in a way that I'd never seen before. I think the central theme of the book is that I don't need any significant change. I don't need any significant event for my life to automatically change. Right? It's the daily disciplines. It's the moment by moment disciplines. And when I make those moment by moment positive disciplines, my life doesn't automatically change in an instant, but it compounds. It compounds, and for instance, take Warren Buffett for example. They said about 95% or more or thereabout of his wealth today came after his 50th birthday. Right, our brains are not wired to handle that kind of math, but that's like the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. And I might read a book today and make a change in my life, but that doesn't automatically, reinvent my life, make my life reinvented or just change my life in an instant. But knowledge compounds. What if I live long enough? What would I look like in 25 years, in 30 years, in 35 years, in 40 years, if I consistently keep, adding more knowledge and making little improvements in my life. So maintaining that long term view on your goals, I think that's what helps you to stay on track. It's a book about self. It's a book that gives you a philosophy to maintain disciplines, right? It's called Slight Edge Philosophy. That you don't need one grand event to come and change and upend your life in a positive way. And you're each time in your life you're either on the success curve or you're on the failure curve, depending on what you're doing per time. You're either setting yourself on the success curve or you're setting yourself on the failure curve. And we don't know how long it's going to take before we have that break. We have that break, that compound break that just kind of like puts us on an unbelievable exponential growth. But we would never get there if we don't keep on sowing the seeds moment by moment, time by time. So I recommend this book. I've already told my friends, almost all my friends about it, and a couple of them have read it, and it's been very helpful for them. So this I recommend this book 100%. I think I saw it when I was watching one of Nisha's video, and I don't regret spending my time on it. And we have two more to go. One is Little Women, the best fiction I read last year. I don't know how I'm just reading Little Women. I speak to a few persons, and they tell me, oh, I read Little Women when I was younger. And I'm like, okay, I did not start reading when I was young. I started reading books during the lockdown. And I mean, consciously and intentionally, I started reading books during the lockdown in 2020. So, yeah. But Little Women is the best fiction I've read so far. Sorry, The Alchemist. But yeah, Little Women is the best fiction I've read, and I don't think I would be doing enough justice to it in this video. But if you know Little Women, you would know that I'm saying this. It's just a story about four young girls, how they grew up, about their love life, their struggles growing up, and it has this practical and spiritual and divine wisdom sprinkled on here and there. So it's a well written book, honestly. It's a well written book, and it's quite emotional at one point as well, but it's a well written book, and it's 5 star, and there's no argument about that. And lastly, is this. I'm going to put it here or here. I don't even know where I put the Little Woman, but it's going to be either on my left or my right. It's One Thing You Can't Do in Heaven, right? And it's a book about evangelism. I am It's no secret now. I'm a Christian, and I really want to be effective. I don't just want to. I think my birthday wish last year was to be more effective. That's all I asked from God. That's all I asked from the Lord. I just wanted to be more effective, to be a more effective Christian, right? And in view of my hope of standing before Him one day. So, One Thing You Can Do in Heaven was a timely book for me. I think someone recommended the book in my local assembly in one of the services we had. And if I hadn't read that book, I wouldn't have met men like Charles Spurgeon, John Wesley, men like Ray Comfort. And to be honest, I the book has helped me a lot. I have been able to evangelize more, to share my faith and to witness more because I read that book. So if you're a Christian and you're looking for a material that would help you to be more effective and to evangelize more, I would really recommend you read One Thing You Can Do in Heaven. I think for me the most striking things about the book were the quotes before each chapter. Charles Spurgeon quotes before each chapter. Of course, the book has very practical tips on how to, and from also some provoking questions and thoughts that would help you and give you that motivation by the help of God and the Holy Spirit to go out there and evangelize. So those are the books that I read in 2023. And I think I'm still going to sit down the video of the books I read in January. which are these, so I don't waste your time. I've already read this in January, and this is one of my February reads. I think I'm still going to get one more to read in February, and I'm going to keep you guys updated on how that goes. I read this book because of am I a creative? Am I a creative? Please tell me if I'm a creative. But yes, I'm a creative, and I think this book reminded me. I read it first in 2020, reading it again now, and it reminded me of why I started my blog, my my website, and why I had this creative juices running in my brain, in my veins, and I was able to rediscover that, and I'm going to start using my hands again to create and to write YouTube script and all that. And this, I'm still going to shoot another video where I review this, but please read this. Please read this. I'm still going to shoot another video where I would review this book. Of course, I should. And this, I'll review you. I would look at you. I'll review you at the end of February. So guys, I would like to know how has your reading goals been so far this year. Have you read any books yet? Have you read any of the books you've looked out? Please let me know in the comment section. Which of the books here do you look forward to, reading in 2024? So that I do not waste your time, I think my favorite fiction for the year is Little Women. My favorite non-fiction, Slight Edge. And of course, I have to mention what Britain did to Nigeria. So that has to be my favorite history book. I had to create a category for it. I mean, come on, come on. So those are my top three picks for the year 2023. I didn't read a lot of books because I work a 9 to 5 and I barely have time. But it's the little time I find, I just try and invest it in reading and learning. So with that, we've come to the end of this video, and I don't think this video would end without me taking one last sip. So guys, let me know in the comment section, have you read any of them? Do you look forward to reading any of them? And see you in my next video. Bye for now.